Welcome to this Miomo webinar for parents and guardians. I'm Yvonne Godfrey, and it's my pleasure to spend the next 45 minutes or so with you, just helping you understand what your young adult has been through on the Miomo program and how, when he or she comes home, you can take your relationship to a whole new level. Just to remind you of what Miomo was all about, and let me take you to a slide here that will show you. And I'm going to get into my technology here. Here we have a slide just explaining a little bit about Miomo, and the next one is probably even better for you, where you can see that your young adult has gone through a range of subjects to help them become independent, because that's the whole goal of Miomo. Miomo is all about making it on my own. Well, it is a whole new world for your young person, and it certainly is a bigger world, and one that is very, very exciting because it's the beginning of their adult life. And it really is our role as parents, guardians, and with what we've been doing on Miomo to empower your young adult into their best ever career and life. And it certainly is a package, because it's important to have a great career to be able to financially sustain yourself, but that's only part of the picture. We're looking at a much more holistic approach here, and we want your young adult to have an amazing life. We base our content for Miomo on the Declaration of Independence, and as you can see here, it's all about I take full responsibility for my life. I pledge to master the things that I'm not yet able to do over the next 90 days. And those next 90 days are once they leave Miomo. So the purpose of this webinar is to equip you with the thinking that my philosophies, if you like, around what I have been instilling in your young person during the last 10 amazing days. So here's what the Declaration of Independence is all about. It covers 3 areas, and the first one is financial. You can see there on the screen it talks about that I'm willing to take care of all my financial needs, to do whatever it takes, making no excuse for not making a living. And really this is the first part, because ability is one thing, but willingness is another. And so unless our young people get it in their heads that they want to take care of their future, then no amount of skills piled on make any difference. So as you can probably reading before me, the next step is to say I am able to take care of my financial needs. And of course a lot of the young people who come on Miomo are not able to take care of their financial needs, either because they've just left school and it simply isn't where they're at, or because they've struggled to find a way to get a job to take care of their needs. So we're helping these young people to really feel confident to step into that space and take care of themselves financially. If I'm studying and receiving free room and board, I will take care of all other living costs. This is really important, that if you are in a financial position to pay for your young person's school fees, university or tertiary education fees, and you can put a roof over their head and feed them, you've really got to expect this young person to start looking after any other costs like entertainment, clothing, running their own car, those sorts of things. Obviously at some stage you'd want them to gear up to taking some financial responsibility for their fees, and for other families there's no way that the family can take care of the fees, and so that young person has to do that. And we must not hold back from expecting our young people to pay their way. Next, it says I do not take handouts from the government, my parents, friends, or anybody else unless in an extreme situation and only for a limited period of time. What we need our young people to understand is that at some point in time everybody needs some kind of help, and it may be financial, and that's okay as long as we don't make it the easy way out, as long as we understand that this is to help me in an extreme situation, and it's not a lifestyle, it's not forever. The last one's very important. Any money I borrow has a written agreement for repayment signed by both parties. I encourage you, I implore you as parents and guardians to make sure that you have proper documentation for any loans. We do not help our youngsters when we simply give them money and they have no concept of what it means to pay it back. This is not the real world, and of course this is what we're trying to establish while they're still at home, is understanding what the real world will demand from them. The next part is the physical part, and this is really all around looking after not only themselves but their environment. So it's around managing a household, doing the food shopping, being able to sign contracts, doing all those things that it takes to in practical measures run your life. Cooking, cleaning, making your bed, changing the sheets, washing, ironing clothes. And I know young people don't iron clothes these days, but they do need to know how to iron a shirt or a skirt, because for an interview this could be very much a part of what they need to do. Taking care of health, eating properly, exercise, dental, medical checkups, these sorts of things. And then lastly, understanding that they are responsible for protecting their personal self. So if they're in a dangerous or potentially dangerous situation, we've got to teach them that it's important to just walk away or ask for help. And likewise, that they understand that they do not partake in physically abusive activities or allow themselves to be physically abused. Now, this could be, in physical harm, or it could be drug, alcohol, any form of addiction that causes bodily damage. And the third area is the emotional area. I am fully responsible for my own behavior. I respect myself and others. I choose my feelings. I can control any negative feelings that may lead to my unacceptable behavior, but I cannot control another person's feelings or behavior. This is so important for young people to understand, for them to have boundaries around themselves and to really respect that their mental state, their emotional state is as important as their physical state. So they need to know, likewise, to ask for help if they're in an emotionally dangerous situation, and that they will not allow themselves to be abused or manipulated or do that to other people. And to understand that to be functioning optimally, that they must continue to develop their people skills and their leadership so that they can bring this growing person into the marketplace, into their families, and into their friendships. On Miomo, we understand that young people have lived their lives up till this point pretty much on what we would call rules and rights. So very restricted, told what to do, being made aware of their rights now is very much a part of a young person's life. And look, I agree with rights. I absolutely agree with rights, and we have to have rules. But what we're wanting our young people to do is to move into the thinking of respect and responsibility as the key drivers to the way they live their lives and make decisions. Because when you live your life out of rules and rights, it's a kind of a legalistic way to live. And it doesn't usually bring a lot of joy. But when we live our lives out of being respected, bringing respect, and taking responsibility, then we tend to drive our lives on ethics and fairness and doing the right thing and bringing value to others. And I believe this is a far better way to guide our lives. Now, you as a parent or a guardian, can I just refer to you as parents from here on in, because whether you're parents or guardians, you are certainly parenting. So when I speak to many parents, there's an attitude around their young adult. For some, there's a great relationship and it's not an issue, but for many, there is this underlying feeling that their young person is more resentful than grateful, and that they are more consuming than contributing. In fact, when I ask most parents how they do view their young person, if I ask them to choose a word out of the first group, grateful or resentful, many choose resentful, and out of contributor or consumer, many choose consumer. And of course, this is sad because it generally means, therefore, that they themselves are also resentful because they're the contributor. So we're wanting to change this relationship. We're wanting to take the monkey or the possum off your back, if you like, and if you possibly feel a little overwhelmed sometimes in parenting, it's not an easy job. It's a difficult job, but it has great rewards if we can learn some basic keys. So I think the first thing to do in order to think about how your family can be better is to check the vital signs of your family. So this is the heartbeat of the family. What's the love factor in the family? Is there a lot of love in your family? Or perhaps there's not. Perhaps there's just hard work, nose to the grindstone, doing day by day what we do. And we've forgotten how to love our families. We've forgotten how to really get a vision for our families. I founded Miomo on the old Jewish proverb that a good man or a good woman leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And what this means is, sure, we all want to leave some wealth to our children in terms of finances, because surely we don't work to consume it all, but to create a legacy financially. But it's much more than that. It's our values, our heritage, our culture. What makes our family individual? What makes our family special? And therefore, whatever we do, we want to start with the end in mind in our parenting and the way we're even working for a living, to have that vision that what we're doing is valuable for more than just this generation. So starting with the end in mind, can I encourage you to think about what it is that you want for your young adult? These are some things that I want for my young adults who now, as I record this in 2011, are 31 and 27. But I want for my young adults to like themselves, to feel good in their own skin, to find the right career, since they spend so much time there as their lives, to become responsible citizens, to develop great relationships that support their adult life. I mean, relationships are everything. To choose the right life partner, or to be happy single, to create a relationship of respect with you, of equality and respect with you, and to maintain or regain closeness, because sometimes it gets a bit lost in those teenage years, and to see them as adults, not children, to trust their decisions, to separate the ideal from the real, and that is separating the ideal from the real, is allowing them to be different from you, because we have sometimes some really unrealistic expectations of what we think our young people are going to be. To let them see us as we really are. And that's without disclosing things that are inappropriate, but starting as adults to adults, to let your young people see you as a real person and not just mum or dad. And, of course, lastly, to release them and reallocate that energy into your second half. I mention this because if your young adult right now is towards the lower end of your kids, not the firstborn, but perhaps the last one or second to last one, then you will be starting to see that you are going to a new phase of your life. And this is very, very important that you get a vision for your life, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. Let me now talk about my 3 principles of parenting: love, lead, let go. Releasing your young adult into the real world so that all we do as parents equips our young people for a successful life. Looking at the first one is love. Now, love is an interesting thought, because sometimes if we're in a state of conflict with someone, we feel like we don't love anymore. But really what's happened there is we don't like anymore. So it's important as a parent that we separate love from like. You don't have to like your kids. My goodness, how many times you don't even like your spouse? You don't like a lot of people. But the love is completely different, because love seeks the best for another. That's really what love is. So it's not necessarily based on emotions or feelings or how we are on the day, but more about a commitment we've made and a responsibility we have to another person. So love seeks, protects, trusts, and perseveres with the truth. Love does not delight in the lie. So part of being real with our young people and helping them into their best ever career in life is to love them around the truth. And I say that because sometimes we forget what the truth is. But if we use that as the fundamental basis of, is this right, then we will make decisions according to what is right, not what is convenient, not what feels good, not what drives our emotions at the time. The first thing that I would suggest will help you to love your children is to speak what you want, not what you've got. Speaking what you want is focusing on the fabulous future that you know is available and out there for your children, for your young adults. And so whatever comes out of our mouth, the power of words is phenomenal. And we have to be really aware as parents that we have the power to build up or to destroy, to encourage or to humiliate with the very words that we say. I don't think we realize how our young people esteem us as parents. It doesn't matter whether you're fighting or not. It doesn't matter whether you're in a bad place or not. At the end of the day, every young person wants to get along and respect and esteem their parents. So what we say out of our mouths can have a huge impact on their behavior and on what they believe about themselves. I've come across, many years ago, I came across a book called The 5 Love Languages. I encourage you to get this book, and in fact your young adult will have a book summary of this when they come home, and you could read it and have them explain to you what these 5 love languages are, because what is amazing about love languages, it's the way we express love. Each of us has an emotional love tank, and when that is full we feel loved. When it is not full, we do not feel loved, and as you know, bad behavior will come out of an empty love tank. So some people have physical touch as their most important love language. They might have words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and gifts. And these are different ways that we express our love. So if you can learn a little bit more about this and observe your young adult, you will find ways. In fact, they will tell you when they come home what their number 1 love language is. And that will help you to be able to pour into their lives in a way that really hits the mark, and they can explain more about that to you. The next thing that parents have a huge control over is memories, rituals, and the things that we do to keep us grounded in the good parts of our childhood. These are my 2 girls here, Anna and Sarah. Anna's the eldest and feeding goats on our property when they were little. You know, look at that little one's face in the front. My goodness, this was an experience. She got to hang out with her big sister and they got to do something together that was very, very important. Now, we have many rituals in our home that remind us of the good times, that bind us together as a family. And this is really important because here are my 2 girls now at 27 and 31. And you can see it doesn't take long to go from that little person to that big person. And likewise, it doesn't take long to go from being a young adult to an adult with a family of their own. And so in order to keep your family connected together, I encourage you, show the love by doing the things that reminded everybody of happy times. And this is very, very important too if you're going through a tough time at the moment. And the last thing about this is to build the dream in your young person. Build the dream in a major way. Once again, what comes out of your mouth, once again, is just being willing to go with their dream. Now look, young people have some crazy dreams that are never going to work. Do you know what I know? Over time, that figures itself out. So you've got to be very careful about how you bring reality and realism into the dreaming process. Your young adult will learn a lot about dreaming on Miomo and about goal setting, which is the practical application of the dream. So don't worry, we put a balanced approach on this. But I find that too many people kill their kids' dreams because it's not their dream for their young adult, or it seems a little out there. But see, sometimes we have to go through the process of funny, crazy dreams in order that we can find what it is that we really want. Now the next part here is the leading process. As a parent, you are called to love your children, but you're also called to lead them, because you see, leading them is part of the truth. We are there to direct our young people to the reality, to what the world expects of them, to the truth of what life is. And so we have to be very careful then that we take responsibility for guiding them in the right way and not the wrong way. What seed are you expecting from what you're doing as a parent? The seed that you're sowing, I should say, what sort of a crop are you expecting? So expectation for your young adult is extremely important. We're here to guide them so that they don't go the wrong way. And we're here to help them understand that whatever they're doing is a pattern. So if you look at where your young adult is right now and you don't like what you see, can I ask you not to dwell on the destination, but rather take a look back to the patterns or pathways that led you to the place where you are now, because that's what needs to be addressed. You see, whatever we do takes us in a direction. If I'm in Auckland and I want to go to Whangarei, for example, but I get on the Southern Motorway, there's absolutely no chance that I'm ever going to go north. It doesn't matter how fast I'm going or how slow I'm going. I will be going in the direction that I am faced, and that will be my destination. So our young people need to learn life as they go. They need to learn how to make smart mistakes, which teach us and grow us. But they also need to identify the difference between discoveries, which are our smart mistakes, from making dumb mistakes or making deliberate mistakes. Dumb mistakes, of course, standing on the banana skin as you see here, it would have been better to go around it, but guess what? You mightn't have seen it. So it is what it is, and we are all going to be faced with these sort of situations in our life. The oil spill, as I show you on the screen, is really to show you that that was a mistake. When we think about the Rena oil spill in New Zealand, there were various mistakes made there, and you can say they were ignorant, you can say they were lack of knowledge, you can say I didn't know, but at the end of the day, the importance of understanding what ignorance and lack of knowledge causes is that whether we deliberately made that mistake or not, the damage can be the same. So we have to guide our young people and identify, is this a smart mistake that you're making here because it's just a discovery process? Great. Or is it a dumb mistake because you are not equipped? You are not taking the time to learn the knowledge you need, or you are ignorant of a situation, and that's why you repeatedly make a mistake. Or in the top right hand corner, as you can see, this girl is drinking a drink, she's talking on her telephone, and she's driving. That is a deliberate mistake. She knows, she's not ignorant of that, she's making a deliberate mistake. And so I have another webinar, by the way, on the website called Turning Mistakes into Maturity, which goes into this whole process a lot more clearly, and that will help you to work with your young adults through their mistake process to help them come out the other side. So just a reminder is we are empowering. We are empowering a young adult into their best ever career in life, which means that we're going from control to influence. Now let me just put a bit more depth on that word empowering so that you understand what it is that we're doing in this leading process. Empowering is to give confidence, and it is also to give authority. So when we equip our young people properly, when we teach them what they need to know, this gives them confidence, and then we have to give them authority and able to run their lives. Now I want to remind you, because this empowering process is interesting and people get a bit confused about it, is you cannot lead your young adult if you need their approval or their affection. So I want to approach another subject with you now, which is called codependency. And I'm not sure if you understand what codependency is, but it's basically where two people come together, have a relationship that produces a negative outcome because it does not build either. In fact, it sucks the lifeblood out of both parties. So we say stop enabling dysfunction, because ultimately codependency leads to dysfunctional behavior. And we don't want you to be part of this problem. We don't want you to hold your young people back from making smart mistakes, from discovering their own power, from developing their own strength of character, because you're in an enabling relationship. So let me explain. What is enabling? Well, enabling simply means to allow, permit, make possible, or facilitate. But when we talk about enabling in this vein, we're talking about it being a negative phrase. And in fact, here are some of the examples of enabling: when we pay someone's way, when we cover up mistakes, When we make excuses for them, we make their decisions, we speak for them, we take over their responsibilities, and yes, when we kill their opportunities. These are all ways of enabling a codependent relationship, which is not good. Let me show you some characteristics of enablers and dependents. So you as a parent are likely to fall into the enabler category. So enablers can be very practical people. They follow rules, they're hardworking, they can have a bit of a martyr syndrome going on. They're meddlers, busybodies, compelled to care, justifiers, feeders, supporters, compensators. Now look, I'm not suggesting that you're all of those things. You mightn't be any of those things. You may not have this problem. But if you do, then out of that list, make a note of what it is that you believe that you may be, because this is what you're bringing to the table of another person who, as you can see here, has the opposite characteristics. So the romantic figure, you know, they're just all over the place, airy-fairy, could be drama queen. They tend to be fixated on problems, not solutions. They're often very confused, and this is why enablers end up doing all the thinking for them, because these young people, or it doesn't matter, they don't have to be young either, by the way. This could be in a marriage, it could be in a friendship, it could be at work. But for this particular webinar, we're talking about your young person. The dependent is often anxious, you know, they get overly concerned about things, and so other people step in and solve their problems. They have no direction, they're very resistant to help, practical, they shift blame, they crave attention, and they do a lot of sabotaging. So as you can see, in a codependent relationship, what a beautiful marriage this is, where you've got the enabler and the dependent. Now let's look at what dependents want. You know, why are they dependent? Well, because they want sympathy but no solutions. They demand a misery partner, by the way. You know that saying, misery loves company? No, misery demands company. They want to avoid responsibility, and basically they just want a fairy tale life, the Peter Pan existence. What enablers want is control. They want perfection. They want a safe face, and they want a painless society. And here I'm going to explain why enablers do this. Well, firstly, it can be a lack of vision for their own future. Now, I talked about that before. The reason it's so important for you to understand that you may be also going through your transition from, I would call it from success to significance, where you go into that second half of your life. And it can't be just the same as the first half. It can't be just an accumulation of wealth, of mana, of recognition, or any of those things that our first half of our life tends to be driven by, which it should, by the way. But the second half is more about giving back. And if you don't have that vision for your future, then many parents invest everything they have into their young people, and they basically won't let go. So the young people become their vision rather than their own life. It could be a lack of knowledge to lead, just don't know how to do it, and that's very, very common, which is, of course, why I'm sharing this webinar with you. Lack of trust in others, that you don't trust that other people can do anything very well. And fear, the need for approval or affection that I showed you in that other slide. You cannot lead if you need approval or affection. So when we come out of a place, many baby boomers, 45 to 55-year-olds, 60-year-olds today, have come from an era where they worked their butt off, and they maybe had a tough time of it as a youngster because it was post-war, perhaps, post-Second World War, and life wasn't as cushy for you. And so what we tend to do as parents is we tend to compensate because we don't want our kids to work as hard as we did. And guess what? You are where you are today because you worked hard, you took responsibility, you learnt the hard knocks of life. And unfortunately, everybody has to learn those things for themselves. So if you're in an enabling situation right now, there are many good books to read, and I can recommend some of those to you. If you want to contact me, you can email me on yvonne@miomo.co.nz, and I can recommend those books to you. When your young person does turn feral, though, because, by the way, if you are enabling, they will turn feral. They will definitely they'll have things going on in their lives that you just don't like. And what I've discovered is that when young adults are acting this way, that it's usually caused by three things. One is there's no dream, and that's what's important to build the dream. Look, if you've got no future, no purpose, nothing to look forward to, you will default to bad behavior. Your young person may have weak character. So if you've compensated for them, if you've let them get away with stuff, if you've never made them measure up, you've never taught them integrity, manners, how to finish a job, how to push through when the going gets tough, hard work, perseverance. If you've not taught your kids these things, then they will have weak character and they will literally tear you apart with their behavior. And the last one is a broken relationship. And of course, a lot of people do crazy things. All I know is that hurt people hurt other people. So hurting people hurt other people. And so these are the three things that I've identified mostly. Well, of course, the people that we love are always the people we attack the most. So definitely parents can be victims, and parent abuse is when teenagers or adult children use violence against their parents, and it can happen in any family. If you are being abused in any way from any of these things, physical violence, verbal abuse, mind games. Now this is one that often comes from the so-called intelligent young person who knows how to manipulate their parent through mind games. If you've got young people threatening to harm themselves or others, this is a manipulative tactic, and it's abuse. Unrealistic demands, making you feel bad, damaging your property, stealing money, incurring debts that you have to pay, and sexual assaults. Now, this has come off the website Are You OK? So I was quite surprised when I saw this last one, sexual assaults, but I assume that perhaps that happens I'm not sure how that happens, to be honest, but it's there anyway, and so obviously it's happening in some families. Here are the websites. Tough Love is an organisation that will help you to strengthen up your parenting skills so that you can manage any difficult behaviour. And Are You OK, of course, is vital if you are being physically abused as well. So I encourage you to go to both those websites. Now, the next thing about leading is that young people, or any of us, in order to have a great life, we have to feel as if there's momentum in our life. And I describe momentum as the free flow of ideas and actions. So, you know, when you're on a roll, when you're in the zone, it's absolutely fantastic. Now, we're not there all the time, but the goal is to have enough momentum in our lives so that we keep moving forward with purpose and joy. Preceding momentum is rhythm, and preceding rhythm is routine. So routine at the very core is discipline. It's absolutely doing the same things over and over and over again in a prescribed time frame that makes our life function. On Miomo, the students get up at 6:45, they're exercising by 7, they have strict times that they are in class, that they eat, they know exactly when they're supposed to be going to bed, and it never changes. We have Saturday nights later, but every other night is exactly the same time. The reason we do this is to create a predictable rhythm in these young people's lives, because out of the rhythm comes the free flow of the ideas and the actions that we call momentum. So it's very important that when your young person goes home, that they continue this routine and rhythm. What I really want you to guard against is you go to work and your young person is still in bed at 11 o'clock in the morning because they don't have a job. So I'm going to encourage each and every one of your young people to, if they don't have a job to go to or study to go to, that's in a rhythm and a routine, and a part-time job, that they must get connected to the working world. And they can do this via work experience. Currently, I have an arrangement with Vodafone that around their 80 stores in New Zealand, that we can get our Miomo graduates to have at least 2 or 3 weeks work experience there. So this is important because what work experience will do is get the purpose and structure to your young person's day, and it will also give them transferable skills that they can put onto their CV and really enrich that CV. So this is one of the things that young people need. They need a CV that indicates to a prospective employer that they know how to work and that they know how to think and that they are willing. These are the things that employers are looking for way beyond skills. So we will be looking at your young people and making sure that some way or another they are doing something constructive with their lives when they go home. If they can't get work experience, they can go and volunteer for the Salvation Army or for hospice or some form of charity that is helping other people, because they must be contributing in order to feel fulfilled. The last part of this Love, Lead, Let Go is, of course, the releasing of your young adult into the real world. And nothing stays the same. This is an interesting time because for these young people, if they've just left school, for example, even their friendships get tested, because, I don't know if you've heard the saying, but people are in our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So school is a season. And when young people leave school, then others move away, they get antisocial work hours, and they go to different tertiary bodies, or they do all sorts of different things, and so the whole gang gets mixed up. And so this is happening for your young person as well. And what I want to help you understand is that your young person is running to an exciting future. They're not trying to run from you. I know it may seem like that sometimes, but they're actually not running from you. They're actually looking forward to a whole new world. And to do that, they have to mentally, in some way, close the door on the existing world. And so just bear that in mind. If you feel like you've been a little bit sort of brushed over, then don't feel like that. Understand that they're running too. When your young person comes home, and in fact for those of you who are able to get to the graduation on the last day, and I hope most of you will be given this Living Optimally document. In fact, you will have already received this. And this document is a binding contract between the parent and the young adult, and its purpose is to clearly establish what the living arrangements are going to be when your young person comes home that creates an optimal environment for all members of the family. Now, why I stress all is because if someone's not happy, it affects everybody else. And many families allow teenagers or young adults to dictate the happiness level in the family because they haven't got a proper arrangement about how the family is supposed to work. So you are going to learn from this document how you can actually put some things in place that make life very, very livable together. You're going to look at financial things. Now, I'm going to say to you from the outset, one of the most important things you can do is to set up the weekly board payment by automatic bank. Okay, so or AP. Do not let your kids give you cash for board, because you won't believe this, I'm sure you will, they can think that they're just giving you money to go and buy a new dress, mum, or dad to spend on whatever you spend money on. They sometimes have got absolutely no idea about how a family or a household runs. They don't understand how much rent or mortgage you're paying. Now, you don't have to disclose your mortgage if that is something that you don't want to reveal, but if you're renting, by all means share the rent. Share the power bill. How much does it cost for the power bill? How much does it cost for the food bill every week? So they understand that what they're paying you for is what you've already been paying for them in the past, and it's now, as an adult, time to contribute and be part of the contribution process financially. So please set up the automatic payment. And parents ask me, how much should they pay? How much board is realistic? Well, generally I say, as a rule of thumb, you could say 25% of their take-home pay. So for most people, I wouldn't definitely go under $100, even on the minimum wage. $100 is 25%, but you find something that works. And look, here's what I know. Get them into the habit of paying what it's going to be in the real world. Even if you take some of that board and you put it aside for them, bank it, and then when they go flatting, you can give it back to them as a way to help them set up their flat or pay the bond or whatever. At least what they're doing is getting into the habit of being realistic about what life costs. Likewise with your financial loans, please get it out in the open. How much do they owe you? State exactly the amount, because the number of families I talk to and the parents think it's one amount and the young adult thinks it's another. Establish a repayment plan, outline that plan, and then both sign it. Just remember that the good old saying that the borrower is servant to the lender is true. Help your young people understand that borrowing money for entertainment is the worst thing that they can do. And I'm talking about phones phones for entertainment. You don't have to pay a lot of money for a phone if you just want to communicate basically. So when they start having to have the latest iPhone or whatever, just know we're now talking entertainment. We're now talking money they don't have to spend. Same thing with anything that's like Xboxes or PlayStations, anything like that, television, flat screen televisions. And similarly, I would extend that to a car that's way beyond their needs. So whether it's the boys want a hotted up car or they want something that looks fabulous just because they want to look good, don't let this be entertainment. Same thing with clothing. Where they're spending crazy amounts on clothing, this is now entertainment. That's just the way I see it, because that'll help you determine, is this a need or a want? Is this basic or is it entertainment? And that way you'll get your young people thinking on the right path. KiwiSaver, we are talking to them about KiwiSaver on Miomo. So I recommend that they get into KiwiSaver. That's my personal advice. And of course that they are starting to develop some sort of savings program, no matter how much they earn. Better to save $5 a week and get into the habit of saving than not save at all. Well, you're looking for the ultimate flatmate, are you not? Because we're wanting you to morph this relationship now from parent and child to adult. And so therefore, once again, with the practical things that are to be done around the home, you want them to be involved, outlining each person's responsibilities in running the household, food planning, shopping, putting the groceries away, cooking and cleaning up after a meal. The whole process, not just part of it, not just drying the dishes. Your young adult will have learned some cooking skills, definitely some nutrition skills while they're with us, and some exercise program, of course. But getting back to food, they will also know how to food plan for a week. Can I recommend that you let them do that for the first week they come home? We will not have been able to teach them shopping because of the impracticality of where we are. So would you please allow them to do the meal planning and shop for it? Let them do the shopping by themselves. If they're totally incompetent, you might want to walk around with them the first time. But you could let them do it themselves and then meet them at the checkout and you pay the bill with your credit card, or give them a certain amount of cash so that they have to learn how to come in under budget and exactly think about what they're putting in the trolley. Then they put the groceries away, they cook, and they clean up. So this will give them a real idea of how to be a great flatmate, because not only do you want a good flatmate, you want your youngsters to be a great flatmate when they do leave home. Housework, this is not just taking care of their own room, because a lot of teenagers and young adults have a very insular mentality, a very siloed mentality about their personal space in the house. But it's not just about their personal space in the house, it's about understanding how to clean an entire house. And I'm talking right down to the skirting boards and the tracks and the sliding doors. Because if they're not doing it, who is doing it? If you're not doing it, who is doing it? If you've got a housekeeper, can I recommend that you put the housekeeper on hold for a month and that everybody gets in to clean the house? And you may say, well, the reason I've got a housekeeper is because my lifestyle is so incredibly busy that I don't have time to clean the house. I understand that, but we're talking about parenting here. We're not talking about lifestyle. We're not talking about anything else, but making sure that your young adult is properly equipped. I've had parents, mothers making their 19-year-old sons' beds. Yep. I've had parents changing the sheets on their kids' beds. I've had young people who do not know where the vacuum cleaner is in the house. And to me, that is unacceptable if you want to produce a young adult who gets on well with others, because unless they're going to go from a privileged home into another privileged home, at some stage they're going to have to get along with people who are not like them. And that's part of the beauty of Miomo, is that in the 10 days that your young adult has been on Miomo, they have mixed with every possible young person from every demographic of society. And I do that deliberately because I want them to be able to go flatting with others that don't come from similar backgrounds. It doesn't matter whether it's the financial demographic or the cultural demographic, whatever it is. I want them to be able to mix beautifully with young people everywhere. So getting down to the tidiness of shared spaces and private spaces such as bedrooms, can I encourage you not to allow your young people to eat food in their bedroom, A, because it's unhygienic and they leave stuff everywhere, and B, because it isolates them. And this is one of the problems that a lot of families have, is that young people isolate themselves, take them off into their bedrooms. Lastly on that list is what is acceptable behaviour regarding boyfriends, girlfriends in the family, coming over in the family home, eating, sleeping over and so on. Your young person can get a boyfriend or a girlfriend who comes for the odd meal, and next thing you know, they're there every night eating your food and you're paying for it. So you need to talk about that and what's acceptable. Likewise, sleeping over. And although this is a moral question, can I just talk about the practical ramifications of young people sleeping together in your home? If you have younger children, please think about what you're modelling. Please think about the ramifications of young people sleeping together. I was told once, if you take a ticket in a lottery once a year, there's not a lot of chance of winning, but you could. But if you're buying a ticket every week, then you've got a lot bigger chances. So when these young people develop these pseudo-marriages, I'll call them, where they are doing everything supposedly in a marriage except taking the responsibility for it, then what you've got is firstly a far greater risk of pregnancy. So you need to think about and challenge your young people, or ask them the question, what are you going to do if you get pregnant? What is the decision? Because they need to know before they have sex that sex leads to possible pregnancy. Hello. And if you haven't got your head around that, that also means if your young adult is not capable of looking after that baby, you'll be doing it. Now, I speak to groups everywhere, and one of them is grandparents raising grandchildren and grandparents parenting grandchildren. And I can tell you, it is not a happy scene for someone who thinks they're about to go into the second half of their life and have some wonderful times, who ends up parenting their grandchildren. So just think about that. Remember that what you're doing is you're educating, you're equipping, you're empowering, and you're also role modeling to other members of your family. So around the emotional area, what language or behaviour is not permissible in the home? Slamming doors, swearing, using all sorts of put-downs. Hey guys, don't put up with it. Do not put up with it. Do not allow emotional manipulation and abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, behaviour, whatever, to permeate your family. It is your home, and if your young person is using manipulative behavior, either emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever it is, understand that they will not know how to look after themselves. And remind yourself of the Declaration of Independence, which you have a copy of, is that they need to understand that they choose their feelings, they choose their behavior, and they can control any negativity. Because we want your young people to be able to protect themselves, to put boundaries around themselves, and to understand it is not acceptable for other people to come and take their stuff. And it doesn't matter whether it's their iPhone, their clothes, whether it's their time, whether it's their personal being, in other words, their virginity, or their just, you know where I'm going with this. I have so many young people on the program, particularly girls, and you can just go in and take what you want. They have no idea how to say no. They have no idea that they own their own space and that it's absolutely not acceptable. So we're going to teach our people, our young people, to grow, so that problems come And we don't want to prevent problems because it's the problems in life that make us strong. But we do know that our problems get smaller when our capacity to handle them gets bigger. And to do this, I really encourage that you encourage your young people to watch healthy stuff, listen to healthy stuff. We cover this on Miomo, so you can keep it going. If they're listening to violent, aggressive, demonic music, what do you think is going to happen to their brain? If they are using foul language on Facebook, if they are speaking to you in a foul way, it's because they're hearing it. And I hope they're not hearing it from you. Unfortunately, I've spoken to many parents, and what comes out of their mouth just tells me everything. It just tells me what this young person has heard all their life. So it's up to us to lift the game and to expect our young people to lift the game. Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote the book The Outliers, said that 10,000 hours of anything makes us an expert. And at the age of 22, after an attempted suicide of my own, I turned my life around and began to listen and read to only positive material. And since that time, 30 plus years later, on an average of an hour a day, 6 days a week, I have now put well over 10,000 hours of positive material into my brain. And I'm grateful because that is part of the substance that makes me able to run Miomo and to have such a vision for young people and what's possible. So let's just finish off by talking about the consequences of not leading, of not loving, and not releasing our young people into the real world. Well, first of all, if you're spending money on your kids that you shouldn't be, then you won't be prepared for your retirement. Just remember that every dollar you're giving your young people that you shouldn't be is coming out of your retirement. And your money will be finite. So just think about looking after yourself, because if you're not prepared for your retirement, you're going to be leaning on your kids. And if you haven't prepared them, well, welcome to your future. It's not going to be pretty. So you also won't have any energy for your second half. You'll always be bound to your kids, and you'll never be free. And you will grow to resent them. I can assure you of that. You won't accept their partner. And that means that you'll create a triangle in the marriage. See, by not equipping your young people and releasing them, you'll actually hold them to yourself, which means they'll be intertwined with you, thinking that they cannot go life alone, and therefore they take their parents into their marriage. When a young person gets married, they should have had time to unravel themselves from the we of the fabric of the family and to establish themselves to stand in their own space as a fully responsible adult and be me, before they can ever be we with a lifetime partner. I hope you understand this, because it's really, really important. A lot of in-law problems come from the in-laws not understanding that they haven't released their young one, and their young one is weak and still relies too heavily on the parent. So they won't respect you or others. They'll be weak, resentful, and they will develop that entitlement mentality. So I'm encouraging you, please keep believing and hoping for a wonderful future in your young person. And you know, hope, it is the anchor to the soul. Just remember that whatever you're going through right now, hopefully your young person is going to come home a completely different person. That's my dream. That's my goal. That's what I've sold out to. I've committed myself to these beautiful young people because I want to change the face of New Zealand by changing this generation, equipping them better. But I do know we've had some horrendous things happen in our own family, which is why I founded Miomo. And we didn't have an easy time of it, taking our young kids through their transition time. And this is where I learnt some of my skills. But now at 31 and 27, Anna and Sarah are the two most beautiful, beautiful, responsible women. They are adults now. And I look at them just with pure joy and pride. But I can tell you guys, there was a time when I was tearing my hair out, when I wondered whatever was going to happen, and I doubted my own parenting ability because of it. Please know that if you put some of these principles in place, you will establish an amazing relationship with your young adult, and you will be able to move forward into a totally functional adult-to-adult relationship. No matter the damage that may have been, I know that all things can be forgiven and most things can be restored. And if you want to talk to me more about that, and perhaps I can share some of my story with you personally, I'm more than happy to do that. Get in touch with me and we can talk about it. But I just want to wish you the greatest future for your children, for you and your children, to know more about some of the things that we do and to learn some more about the webinars that we have available. You can go to the website www.miomo.co.nz. You can read some of my articles, watch some of the webinars, and contact me if you want to. If you need help with counselling, we can point you in the right direction, because I'm just excited about your future as a family. That's what I'm here to do, is to strengthen families, and it's been my privilege to have your young adult on Miomo, and I just hope that you'll be telling me stories in the future about what's happened in your family, that you'll talk about Miomo, that you'll invite others to experience Miomo, and that you will have a beautiful, beautiful life together. So thank you very much, and I wish you the very, very best.